Broadcasting from Hollywood, California, it's Grant's Rants, Hollywood Talk.
MTV struggles with how to handle its Michael Jackson award. Lisa Vanderpump is the most protected Bravolebrity ever, apparently. We have a Vanderpump Rules update, and was Taryan Manning really hacked, slamming Orange is the New Black? That and more with Hector Sagastumes right here. Let the ranting begin. I am sitting across from Hector Sagastumes, a pop culture nerd and a listener of Grant's Rants. I can't thank you enough for that. Welcome to the show.
Hi, how's it going?
Hi, Hector. I'm happy to see you. We've been in touch on the Instagram.
Yeah, for a little while now, but I'm glad to be here.
We have a mutual friend who's been on the show, former NBC page Isabella Carasso, and she put us in touch, and, you know, the rest is history.
Yeah, it happened one night. She told me, you need to talk to him. This is a guy that he's going to have the exact same point of view. And I said, yes, I definitely need to get in contact with this guy.
Well, then you're our kind of people then. So that's good, because we're going to be talking about things that are polarizing, apparently, like Lisa Vanderpump and Real Housewives. I mean, more polarizing than I could have ever imagined. But, you know, we're both coming in off of separate brunches, and we're ready to talk. So it's a real Sunday here in Studio G. Let's get started, because I want to give a little bit of a Vanderpump Rules update. A show I don't know if I'm going to continue with, but who am I kidding? I probably will. You know, there's a couple things going on. They're currently filming. A bunch of blogs that I follow this week in the early part of the week said that Jackson and Brittany, or newlyweds on the show, are already having problems. They've been married less than a month, or maybe a month and change as of today. And at first, I gotta be honest with you, I believed it. I said, you know what? I bet they had the big party. It's like Whoopi Goldberg says, you get married, you have the big party, you turn over the next day and you're like, oh, I'm stuck with this guy, you know, right. And I wonder if that was the case. I don't know. What do you think?
I really feel like this is not coming out of left field. This seems very in tune with kind of how Jax has been operating before. So to me, it doesn't seem like it's one of those things like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that this is happening. Nah, this is exactly Jax's brand. He's been doing this for a long time. And I mean, Jax has been in it for himself for a while now. So to me, it wasn't super surprising. Their Instagram update and their story that they put out, them kissing on the way to Las Vegas, that to me seems totally staged and trying to, you know, put a little damage control out there. But honest to God's truth, I mean, he's been doing this for a long time. I don't know why anybody's surprised by his antics anymore. Yeah,
I mean, I'm not, you know, they did say later, Vanderpump and other people and Jax, like, they shot it down. But, you know, there have been reports from Radar Online, which basically I always say means the opposite. Though they said that he has a wandering eye, and that's what's creating a problem. I think it's an easy story to put out there. But the thing is, like, if Lisa Vanderpump is supposed to have all these ties to Radar Online, how come everything they're reporting is so untrue? I can't seem to make sense of it.
I think there's some...
Unless if she made enemies over there.
Well, maybe. She might have burned a couple of bridges over there. But I think that there is a little bit... There's got to be a little bit of truth in there. I mean, at the end of the day, this is his MO. He's done this before. I mean, we haven't seen any kind of, you know, redemptive behavior from him other than getting married. But, I mean, a month in, sometimes, you know... I was talking to somebody earlier, and we were saying that sometimes when people get married, they expect to change into behavior because now they're in this elevated version of their relationship. And I think that Brittany kind of said, okay, now that we're married, Jax is going to stop doing that. And I think this behavior as a married person to her is a little bit more offensive than when they were engaged or they were just boyfriend and girlfriend.
If it's true. Yeah. But then she'll go and she'll try to repair it by having a baby. That will bring us closer, which is another huge mistake. A tale as old as time. It, you know, the same pattern. I hope not. I hope that they're happy, but who really knows? Those who don't watch Vanderpump Rules, I mean, it's like a bunch of grown up kids. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they are going to get bored with each other and move and do things while they're married because they haven't really matured. Now we're seeing it, but Jax is almost 40, so can it leverage and just, but there's a whole conversation.
Definitely, you know? Definitely.
So I really don't know. But Lance Bass married Brittany and Jax. Again, I've said for years, he'll go to the opening of an envelope. He'll do anything. He'll go to a car wash for an early morning special.
Definitely.
Can't stand that. So he, quote unquote, learned that Katie and Tom, another couple on the show, are not legally married and that they never properly filled out paperwork. Well, that's the perfect excuse to get out. Because if I'm just blaming Tom, the husband, for this. I mean, if you're stupid enough to not go through the proper paperwork, then you don't want to be married to that person. What an idiot. I would get away from him. I don't care for Tom Schwartz. I mean, he's fine. I just think he's an idiot. I don't know why she would want to be married to someone for 2 years and then find out they're not married and then get out. That's my advice to her.
Well, it seemed like she was very much pushing the relationship for them to move forward. She was definitely the catalyst to saying, okay, we're going to get married. We're going to do all of this. So I think that Tom had a great idea of, we're going to mess this up a little bit so that we're not technically married. And then we're going to go forward. And then, I think right now they're doing more of a stunt for the show now that they're going to have their wedding. I mean, they documented that they're all in Las Vegas right now, partying at Lisa Vanderpump's new restaurant and stuff like that. So to me, it seemed more stunty than, oops, I messed up. But I definitely feel like Tom was kind of like, I don't need to get involved with this. We don't have to have this completely official, because he was being strong-armed into it. Yeah.
I mean, they had this, I agree with you with the stunt idea and for story for the show. The cake said, congratulations again. They're all in Vegas. And surprise, they're all at Vanderpump Garden at Caesar's Palace. I'm sure that wasn't a mistake.
Yeah, not at all.
Yeah. And, they renewed their vows, I think, on a Wednesday. They're there throughout the week. I mean, nobody works. None of these people have a job. I mean, I don't see anybody working, as Vicky says. I just don't get it. That is, and I will go on a little bit of a rant here, because that really goes on to that just gets to me. As these people, they have all these followers, all the success, all this money, but they don't have a job. They're famous for being famous. They're famous for being on the show. And then the show comes on and they can't acknowledge that they're on this hit show. And that's what made them a household name in most cases. So it really kind of pisses me off. I just can't stand able-bodied people not working. And how do you make all this money? I don't get it.
Well, a lot of promotional deals, a lot of things. A lot of stuff is handed to them. I think that's a big difference in comparison to a lot of other people. There's some celebrities that are working hard outside of the show. But a lot of people, when they get into these reality shows, that's all that they're focused on.
Look at someone like Sheena. The show be lost without the show.
Totally
her
lost.
life is the show. And I like her.
Yeah.
And I actually really like her. But I don't know. I can't relate to anyone that doesn't have career goals. It's not an escapist thing for me anymore, because it's escapist that's the reality is that's who lives around me here anyway. People who really don't have jobs. So I get it. Other people in other parts of the country and the world perhaps connect and see alternative lifestyles. But I mean, when that's the norm, it's not really that interesting.
Well, I don't know if it's fair to say that they don't have goals. They do have goals, but it just doesn't involve work. A lot of that stuff is just given to them. Yeah. So, I'm sure that they didn't pay a dime to have this because Bravo is hosting it. And they're, Vanderpump is definitely telling, the restaurant and everywhere to go ahead and handle them. So they're really not doing anything out of pocket. So it's hard for them to kind of keep up with normal behavior, working.
Yeah, I know. It gets under my skin, man. I hate it. I can't stand that people, especially grown men who don't work. And I said this about one of the 90 Day Fiancé, Andre, with that father, his father. I just I have no tolerance for that.
I agree.
Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, right now it's all about LVP, as is Vanderpump Rules. Apparently, they've got to shoe her and everything. And so now the woman hasn't appeared on the show. She breached her contract. She stopped filming. She, skipped the reunion. But yet this woman is treading into the most protected Bravolebrity I've ever seen.
100%. And I don't understand what it is that she has that they're looking at.
What is it that she has?
I don't understand it at all.
Let's get into it, because, now she's on Twitter. She is saying that she's now prepared, basically, in so many words, that she's now she's ready to hurt her cast members. Earlier, she wasn't. She says in a tweet, she said, "It's ironic. Now I am not so hurt. I can be more objective. If I wanted to hurt any of them, there would be so many things. There's so many things going on: lawsuits, bankruptcies, shops failing, shows canceled, loans in default, etc. And I never said a word." I mean, classic passive aggression, bitch move. I'm sorry, that's a bitch.
100%. how did she not hurt anybody? She's been saying these things for a long time now.
And if she hasn't been saying them, somebody else has been saying them directed by her.
Exactly. And one of the things that was very telling at the reunion, this past episode 2 in the reunion, is when they showed Bernie, Adrian's cook, and how she said, I would never let my staff talk about anybody. And she has these 2 people that if anybody would have done that in seasons past, she would have said, no, guys, we don't want to do that. But now, because it's Mad Day, she wants to burn everybody down. And I don't understand it at all.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, nobody has said anything bad about her. Nobody's talked about her businesses. Nobody's talked about her personal life. Everybody said they're very supportive about her, the personal struggle she's going with, especially with her brother and her mother. And yet she can't see past that. All she's seeing is red, because they said that, come forward with the truth.
I believe they did.
Yeah.
I don't have anything nice to say about Lisa Vanderpump. I really don't. I mean, what's interesting is Cedric, the original house guest from season 1, he had her number from the beginning, and he's nowhere to be found. And that's somewhat, there was a poll. It was like, who do you want to see as a bartender on Watch What Happens Live? And I was like, I think it's time someone resurrects Cedric from the dead and sees what he's thinking. Asks, what are you thinking of all this?
Yeah, exactly. Find him, because he probably has a lot of insight. It's very similar to Brandy Glanville. She's been telling us about Lisa Vanderpump for years. Right. Everybody's been talking about kind of this conniving, manipulative individual. And, because Lisa Vanderpump is funny and she is beloved, a lot of people just kind of pushed it to the side. Yeah. But, we've had this information for a long time.
Right. Mm-hmm. And, Brandy really dashed my hopes this week on her podcast. She said, don't look for me next season, because why? Of Lisa. She spoke with Alex Baskin, one of the main producers, and he said, it's not going to happen. We can't do that to Lisa. There's no way we can replace Lisa with you. Again, untouchable.
Completely.
I mean, it's incredible in an ensemble show that they're going to hold the show back from a fan favorite when the show is, in my eyes, should be canceled and has no creative hope. The one person that excites fans can't go on because of someone who quit the show. I don't follow.
Well, obviously,
I sound so angry. I'm really not that angry. I'm just frustrated.
No. I'd be angry too, because it doesn't make any sense. One of the biggest telling things that Brandy Glanville said in that interview, she specifically texted Andy Cohen and he told her, hey, lay off of Lisa Vanderpump. Like, don't bring her up. Don't, we want the whole cast to kind of not talk about her.
Censorship.
And yet, what? Lisa Vanderpump's not being censored at all. So
no.
I don't understand why
she's on Twitter even today. That. She was retweeting people, or she followed up with someone's ideas and endorsed their ideas. I don't know where that gag order is. That really pisses me off. They instructed everyone to lay low and it's just ridiculous. And then there was this whole instance of these paid bots that apparently they're like the women of Beverly Hills who are not on Team Lisa are getting flooded with negative messages that they assume are paid for. Now, look, I don't care for Lisa, but even I don't know if I can credit her with paying robots to hate on like Teddy Mellencamp. It's not even worth the time.
Yeah, I don't know if that's something that completely happened, but I'll tell you a story with me. I didn't even tweet anything negative about Lisa. I actually put something positive, I think, on Kyle's tweet. And I said, I feel you, because she was going through a rough time. The Vanderpump fans went crazy on me, like directly, like they were attacking me. And by the way, I didn't say anything negative about Lisa Vanderpump. I said something positive to Kyle, and that wasn't enough. They needed to break down anybody who was doing anything positive for it.
That's interesting, because I talk smack about LVP all the time, and I rarely get pushback. But I guess I'm not on her radar at all, which is probably a good thing, because I'm going to keep doing it no matter what.
Well, I didn't know I was on her radar either, but
I find that people are quiet, but there are people who are not supportive of her, but they know not to come out of their shell. As of right now, Lisa Vanderpump has still not blocked me, and she's blocked other friends of mine who have said a lot less than I have. And I've been talking about her for years. So who knows? I don't know how that's all determined. So it's unfortunate all the way around. And, I'm not letting things settle, and I'm not letting things lay low here on Grant's Rants, because on Thursday, and if you're listening to this, the show may already be out, but I will be doing a panel, The Plot to Save RHOBH. And it's going to be a well-rounded panel. I'm negative Nancy about Beverly Hills, but we're going to have different point of views. Some people are going to like others and want to protect others, where I just want everyone's head to after all. So it's going to be a good combination. And we're going to each kind of make arguments for what's going on here and how the show can progress. Please take a listen and let me know your thoughts as well, because it's going to be an interesting roundtable, to say the least.
I'll be listening, definitely.
I think the show is in horrible shape, so I'm going to try to really come prepared with what they can do to address this. I don't know. I'm going to do some homework, but we'll see. We shall see.
Excellent.
Yeah. MTV, switching gears, they have the VMAs coming up, and I always forget about these things. But they used to be appointment TV. Apparently, there's a heated discussion happening around this Michael Jackson Video Vanguard Award at the VMAs. It's an award named after him. It's been given out to the usual suspects, as you can imagine: J-Lo, Britney, Beyonce, the usual. And now there's this controversy if they should change the name based out of the allegations. That documentary that I couldn't stop talking about, Finding Neverland. That was the name of it, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah. Oh, well, Leaving Neverland. Yeah. So let me just verify real quick, because I need to make sure that I know what I'm talking about here on the Rants. But yes, it is Leaving Neverland, that disturbing documentary that changed a lot of minds. It caused a huge uproar with Michael Jackson's estate and confirmed a lot of what I already thought I knew. And has really, I never was a Michael Jackson fan to start, but I would not want an award myself with his name on it. How do you feel about this?
I'm a little divided on it, because it's very difficult to separate the art from the artist. This is how I feel about Kanye West too. I don't know if I should, because I like a lot of Kanye's music, but do I like Kanye as a person or as an individual? Mm-hmm. No, I don't. And so a lot of Michael Jackson's music is iconic for a reason. We grew up with it. We have emotional ties to it. But at the same time, a lot of the stuff that he did was pretty unforgivable. And so what do you do in that case? I mean, me personally, I think replacing the name, changing the name is probably the safest thing. One thing that MTV did point out too is that they don't always give out the award. So they may have bought themselves an
annual thing.
It's not an annual award. So they may have bought themselves a little time to say, you know what, we're not going to give it this year. Let us figure out what to do next year.
Well, that's their best bet. But I also would like to see them stand up for the victims and say, no, we're going to give the award and we're going to rename it because we stand in our truth and this is what we believe. And it would be nice to see someone not kind of pussyfoot around that. Given the very serious allegations that I believe, and I'll say it again, I believe every single word of what was said in that documentary. So, there's a whole thing around who will present it, who will accept it, will they want to accept the award?
Exactly.
That documentary did come out in the beginning of the year, and time has passed, so maybe people will be more receptive to it. But I don't know.
And there's so many video artists that have done so much great work too that they could replace the name with. So I don't understand necessarily them having to second guess it. They've renamed awards before. It's not a huge deal, but the fact that they're not taking a stance either way is very telling.
That's true. Yeah, and you wonder who's in their ear, like Michael Jackson's camp and, all of that. I mean, it's called the Michael Jackson Vanguard Award. I don't know why they just don't call it the Vanguard Award.
Or MTV's Vanguard Award, or even nail it that,
Yeah. I mean, there's different things that you can do with this and keep it going. I think it's good press for the VMAs. A lot of people forget that it's still around. I mean, no one's really, tuning in the ways they used to. These are very expensive shows to produce. So it's interesting that it's out there and it's being talked about because it definitely gives them some press. Something that's giving them press is snubbing Miley Cyrus. She wasn't nominated for anything, and she's awfully butthurt about this. I mean, is it that big of a deal?
I mean, wouldn't you be kind of hurt? I mean, she kind of had this resurgence recently where she's a little bit more relevant than in years past. Mm-hmm. So I think that when you have that kind of reawakening, you kind of remodeled yourself and redone yourself to create yourself as a great artist. And I do think she's actually personally a great artist. I think that saying, you know what, I'm not going to participate because I'm not nominated is not necessarily the worst thing. It does come off a little childish, but at the same time, I mean, I'd probably feel the same way.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, especially because she is probably the last most water cooler moment on the show is her with the foam finger and Robin Thicke and all that. I mean, you know, she really gave her generation of fans that moment of, okay, the VMAs are this. Where for us, it was probably, for you and for me, it was like Britney. For me, it was like the VMA moment.
The big snake when she came out. That was amazing.
So, like, you know, I get it. She's part of the pop culture and the big moments of the show. Fans have been writing to her and she's been endorsing their messages of like how it's unfair and things like that. But I don't know that the whole concept of award culture is kind of silly, I think, to get so upset about. It's real first world problems. Totally. You know what I mean? Totally.
And I think that she hasn't really thought what that kind of says to her fans too. I mean, her fans want to see her perform. Right. I don't know if she's doing all these performances like she used to do before when she was touring. I'm not even sure she's touring right now or anything. So any kind of performance that she has is going to give her fans a little bit more of what she wants.
Yeah.
Again, it's a little childish, but I get it.
Yeah. I mean, in this streaming culture, I mean, it's just so many artists doing so many things that it really isn't, your success really isn't contingent on awards anymore. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many independent artists on Apple Music and, you know, I just don't know why. I feel like it's not a Grammy. Like, it's just a VMA. Like, I don't get the big deal, but she will absolutely not perform at them. Has no interest. So instead, it looks like it's going to be like BTS and Ariana, I assume. And I'm sure the Jonas Brothers, you can't turn that song off despite how badly I wish it would go away. And that's probably what it's going to be. You know, let me know when Britney returns and then I will tune in. Definitely. Until then, I'm really not that interested.
I don't think a lot of people are interested. So I think that's kind of why they're using this to kind of drum up interest for the show itself.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if MTV is the one talking about this. She's not coming. She's not coming. That's going to be a big press line because people are going to be like, wow, why is she not coming? Let's check this out.
Right. I mean, they're not producing these shows for me. I'm not their audience at this point. You know, I'm 30 years old and I'm not in that demo of, I'm not streaming BTS on my phone. I'm just not.
Definitely.
So it's not for me. So, you know, I don't feel like I'm missing out on a movement. But again, let me know when Britney shows up and, you know, and I've said this for years and I want to say it again. We need another big collaborative performance. Think back to like that huge collaboration they did with Lady Marmalade.
Of course.
And that wasn't necessarily on the VMAs, but like reuniting like really hot artists of different genres together, thinking of Madonna, Christina, and Britney and that trio with Missy Elliott popping out at the end. I mean, incredible. Why isn't anyone thinking of performances like this that are really going to be buzzworthy and loud? I don't get it.
I just don't think that people are as collaborative as they were years ago. I feel like more people were willing to work together. Years ago, you could go into a studio and meet several different artists and they would work together on a song. And now everything is done remotely. People are recording from different parts of the world and then putting it together, never meeting. So it's really different when you had the old school collaborative style where you were in the studio together, you felt energy together. And now everything's a little bit disassociative.
Yeah. And I miss the days of the big sets, and I've said this too, you know, they had the pyrotechnics and the fire and fully built out sets and themes. And now it's a lot more unplugged, unless if you're someone like Taylor Swift who has to overcompensate by having all these backdrops and props and flying umbrellas and all this nonsense. Then it's like used as a distraction. But the overall theatrics of these performances, I feel like is lacking, and it's sad because those were the good old days to me. So
yeah, totally. I love the shade on Taylor Swift right there. That was great.
Yeah, did you catch that? Yeah, I'd say it's pretty accurate.
No, 100% agree.
Yeah, well, when we come back, we're going to have a little bit of a palate cleanser, and then we're going to get into a little bit more business talk. You know, I love talking about Hollywood talk on this show in the title, and there's some news coming out of Orange is the New Black that I really want to comment on, and then we're going to talk more with Hector. That and more in a moment. Now this.
You're listening to Grant's Rants. Subscribe and spread the word. There are a lot more rants to come. Listen anytime on all major podcasting platforms. And now, back to the show.
And we're back on the Rants with Hector Sagastumes, and we're going to be looking at a little bit of news coming out of Orange is the New Black. Are you watching? Are you familiar with this?
I used to watch at the beginning. I haven't been watching as much lately.
Well, that's common. Everyone I've talked to has said the same thing.
Well, there was a big tone change in it. So it went from being kind of, fun and kind of different and now it's like it got really gritty for a little while and it was kind of like not fun to watch anymore.
Yeah, no, I mean, it really isn't. And the show's been all over the place. It's like, I remember it was nominated in like a comedy category when it first came out. And now it's like, all this assault and I mean, it's intense, which, they're telling powerful stories, but, I'll give you my thoughts on it for those listening. And then we're going to get into a bigger story around it. But, the final season has dropped and I'm still hanging on. It's like at this point, it's the last one. I'll watch it. And, there are certain scenes that are just great work. And then there are things happening like, they're going back like 3 seasons ago where they're having this, like everyone's selling drugs. The guards are selling drugs. Everyone's selling drugs and on drugs. And it's like, we already told that version of prison life, and it's a little unrealistic when it seems like, everyone's selling something and there's all this stuff that's freely coming in and out of a maximum security prison. And, I have a hard time suspending my disbelief if this really is about the prison system and a commentary on what it's like to be incarcerated. It's like, you got to really suspend your disbelief, but then you have these scenes that are deeply rooted in reality and the pitfalls of the corrections, and it's a lot. It's a lot. And now the only thing that's really holding my attention is they're depicting ICE detainment camps, which, I think is the biggest shame of this country. I don't even get me started. But to see it play out and how these people who have been in this country since infancy are being removed, and it's really interesting to see how they're depicting this harsh reality.
And I think that the show has been really good at kind of showing the horror of something like this. You're right. Yeah. They do suspend a lot of belief with the extra stuff that they're trying to do for narrative's sake.
Yeah,
but
like everyone's a lesbian.
Exactly. So when they do something like that, obviously it's a little bit more palatable, I guess, because you're like, okay, that's not really happening. But when it's something straight out of the headline, like the ICE camps, it's just really hard to watch because that even though this is fiction, this is actually happening in our backyard. This is happening here.
Yep. And it prompted me to do some reading. And this is not where we're going to go. I'm not going to get into ICE and all of that, but I'll give everyone a break, believe me. But I did a lot of research and it really mirrored what they showed and how these circumstances were depicted. And it's sad and it's tough because it's really not being talked about. I learned a lot just by watching this show, good or bad or indifferent, and then doing my kind of curiosity research and reading around it. It really needs to be talked about more. So I applaud them for doing the story. Everything else kind of is a little bit all over the place. I am interested to see where this show goes and how it ends. I'm about halfway through. I'm curious to know what anyone else thinks. If you're listening and you're still holding on and watching, let me know what you think. I think the general consensus is it's time to let this show go.
Totally. I think it's had its run.
Yeah. 7 seasons, I think. That's
7
good.
seasons is a good long time. I don't think Genji Cohen, who's the creator, I don't think she has like a full 10-year series in her. I mean, her last series, Weeds, went for 8 years and it was a lot for toward the end. It was very, very interesting what they did. And I don't think that her creative team has really worked on something further than this. So it's good that they're cutting it off right when they're still okay.
Yeah. It's time to go. Taryan Manning, who plays on the show, also listeners of the show will recognize her from Crossroads, same audience. And she has, I guess, I don't know, she's going through something. She put a long Instagram post out there. She said that she's currently being terrorized by cyber criminals and she couldn't attend the red carpet premiere. Which is kind of a strange thing.
Correct. And it's very odd too, because this is a very prominent red carpet that they did. Yeah. And so everybody from the show was there with the exception of her. And it was a big empty spot. Everybody was kind of like, where is she at?
And no disrespect to her, but the cyber criminals are going to go after her. They're not going to go after the president of the United States or the lead of the show itself. I don't mean to see that in a shady way, but I just don't know why they would target her of all people. But I don't want to downplay if she's really going through it. But it's there are a lot of arguably bigger names in entertainment that could be targeted. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I wonder what it was that she actually went through, because she keeps saying the cyber criminals, but what was it that they were doing? Were they stealing her information? Was she getting identity theft? Were they pilfering her personal, her personal hard drive? What was going on with it? Because it's a very general explanation. Yeah. And usually when you hear something very general like that, it's almost as if, and I hate to say this, but it's almost as if it's almost kind of made up. Just because I kind of need a little bit more for that. So just for comparison's sake, and I know we're going to talk about this later, but I do work at a bank, and as my day job. And a lot of times people come in here with fraud, or they come in with information that, oh my gosh, they're trying to steal my information. And a lot of times I'm like, yeah, no, that was you did this. And so I kind of feel it's kind of like the same thing where she's saying all these cyber criminals and cyber attacks are happening, but what happened specifically?
Right.
Or, even just a little bit more information. I don't need to know specifics, but a little bit more information, because that's going to help us understand.
Paranoid.
Totally.
Yeah. And I don't want, if this is the truth, if this is her truth, like, I'm not downplaying it, but, from the outside, like you said, with very little information, it does sound paranoid to me. She now, for the bigger part of things, she really kind of, knocks the show that she's been on for a long time. And she said that, quote, "The show hurt me more than anything has in my life. And if this is what I have to do to push what I stand for, I will." She continued, this is on Instagram. She said, "I have to speak out before anything else happens to me. F fame. The show hurt humans. You will never truly know, but many were hurt." And again, a little off.
Cryptic.
Yeah.
Cryptic. Who was hurt? Why were they hurt? What happened?
Yeah. Big statements, with no follow through yet. She responded to a supportive comment from a cast member, and she said, "I'm giving up everything to speak on how awful this career is and how awful we are treated. How I never knew if I was coming back, yet I had several optional seasons. How I didn't even know how to plan my life, organize anything, because everything was a secret, self-serving BS for whatever sick agenda. How some of the most dear characters were just not there anymore. My pals, F the show. This show hurt me so bad." So what I get from this is she's angry about the option in her contract. Housewives have this too. I'm sure someone like Denise Richards has a 3-year contract with Beverly Hills. What a mistake. But whatever. And it's like, they can option that contract for 1 or 2 or all 3 seasons, but like, it's up to Bravo if they want to pull her on or not. It doesn't mean that she's getting paid for 3 seasons. So it's kind of like you're on deck. Like, you have a contract, like, she doesn't know if should she book another gig, should she not. I can see how that is frustrating, but that is the business.
She would do terrible on Game of Thrones. Oh. So, she would have had a hard time working on that show. But honestly, when you were talking about earlier about first world problems, this seems like a first world problem.
Yeah.
She's gainfully employed. She worked all 7 years on the show. She's been on it from the beginning.
She's driven a lot of story on that show.
Exactly. And so I don't understand. I understand the idea that, man, I don't know if I'm going to be able to work, but there's a ton of those actresses that are on, Laverne Cox is booking gigs left and right when she was on that show. She was not completely locked down. So I don't understand where she's kind of like, I'm stuck and I can't do anything. No, you had options. What were you working on? Or what was it that you weren't allowed to do? Because I'm sure that the producers would have worked with her.
And the show is not in production year round.
Correct.
So, other people are able to. Danielle Brooks is out there doing a lot of stuff right now, another cast member. So, I just question all that. But, I don't know why this working actress expects this business to be, consistent and reliable. That's not what you're going to acting for. So I just don't really understand where she's coming from. And it sounds to me, if not that anyone asked, but if I have to give some advice, I'd say maybe I would think about leaving the business. Because it doesn't sound like it's healthy for you. It doesn't sound like you're enjoying yourself or you're able to really find this fulfilling. And if it hurt you so badly, maybe take a step back.
Definitely. I think that this has affected her mental health more than anything. And I think that's something that has to be really considered. Her message and her responses to that have just been consistently negative and it sounds like from somebody who's going through a lot personally. So when you're reading these messages, you're like, whoa, what's going on? It's a lot. I was mentioning it to my boyfriend yesterday, and he was saying, wow, it sounds like she needs help. And it definitely sounds like she's crying out for help in this industry. I don't know if she's doing it the right way, because I don't know a whole lot of people that are going to be supportive of that. But still, it's one of those things.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, well, I wish the best for her, but I think she should probably think about doing something else.
Totally.
Yeah. Anyway, let's change it up, because you mentioned your work in banking, and I want to talk about how this really ties in, because really, though, this business touches a lot of different people in different ways. And, you mentioned to me that, you're interfacing with different producers and people in front of the camera. So, how does all that fit in? I think people will be curious to know.
It's interesting. I work in Highland Park, which is the hotbed of gentrification right now. So everybody that lives in Hollywood and on the West Side is moving over there. So in years past, where I was getting a very specific demographic, I'm now meeting actresses, producers, one of my favorites, and I can't name her, but she is was one of the producers for Watch What Happens Live. She was my favorite person in the world. She had the best stories.
Oh, really? I bet.
She had the best stories for me. But it's great because I get to interact with these people while I'm doing, financial stuff. And so I feel connected to the entertainment world because of it, but I'm not directly into it. So
so you're rubbing shoulders with people. That's interesting.
Yeah, it's fun. Yeah. It's people that I never expected to meet or to do anything with, and it's really, really cool. I got to go to a couple premieres because of it. I've gotten to see different shows that were being produced. I got to see them beforehand, so it was very, very cool.
Nice. It's just to hook up through work.
Just through my clients. My clients are some of the best people in the world.
Wow.
And so a lot of times they'll say, "Hey, Hector, we're doing this. Come on over, check this out."
So do you work with high profile clients, I assume?
For the most part, yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
So it's really, really fun. It's different than I anticipated, and it's different than when I started. But yeah, I'm really, really loving it now.
Yeah. And like you mentioned, the gentrification. I mean, this whole city is like upside down right now. I mean, everyone's moving and just don't know where to go.
Yep.
So it makes sense that area is on the come up for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Houses that were in there, they were starting at like 300, 400. They're now close to $1 million. So
I believe it.
The only people that can afford them are the people in the entertainment industry. So
yeah, that's true. And I want to ask you about Comic-Con. You said you went to is it a new museum, the Comic-Con museum?
So there's a museum that's being put up for Comic-Con. It's actually opening up in 2021.
Okay.
I was invited by one of the people that's on the board there that works. And so we went there on Wednesday night. They had a fundraiser with some people from WB and DC. They came in to introduce it. Batman was the theme of Comic-Con this year, so it was a Batman-themed exhibit, which was incredible because it had movie memorabilia. And one of the things that a couple of the people that I was talking to commented on was a lot of the props were just god awful. Like they looked like somebody like Mickey Mouse them together, but when you saw them on the film, they looked amazing. But when we saw them up person, we were like, wow, this is really bad.
Wow. Yeah. And you're a self-entitled nerd. I'm not calling you a nerd on the top of the show.
Totally. I'm totally a nerd. Yeah.
This is what you told me. Yeah.
Yeah.
So so that's really your thing. Do you think is it a good balance of like Bravo and that world of comics, or is it a mix of both?
It's kind of like a mix of both. I'm at home watching a Marvel movie as much as I am, watching Real Housewives.
I wish I could get into it because that's what's playing in the movies. And I rarely go to the cinema and see anything, but I almost wish that I enjoyed all those movies because that's what's playing.
Totally. And I mean, you would not understand the level of fandom that's out there. I was on the floor. There's people that were completely getting rejected to go into panels that they were having. I mean, some of the panels, they were, they can only fit so many people in these halls, and there were literally people pouring outside of them. Wow. And so, the whole city of San Diego transforms. If you've never been, you really got to check it out at least once. I recommend everybody go at least once. But like right now, Gaslamp District after Comic-Con gets completely shut down. And so you're just walking in the streets, and It's crazy. It's amazing.
Wow. I would love to be part of it. The Good Place, which is a podcast that I produced for the show, had a panel which was recorded for a podcast. And they did this now the last 2 years, and they would not include me. I mean, I'm the one producing the show. And so we get like a really lousy file like 2 days later that we then have to transform into a podcast. And it's tough. You know, it's like there's the whole cast plus 2 executive producers all on one track. And it's like, clean this up. It's like, good luck. So I would love to go, especially because, you know, they're recording the podcast and you know, it's a really big deal and everyone's there. It's on my list.
Yeah. They had a huge building that was dedicated to the Good Place. They had this whole row that was dedicated to NBC shows.
Yeah.
And so like they had like different things in those buildings, but yeah, I mean, it's really, really fun. Even if you go just as a civilian, it's great to kind of see the culture. I'm all about being passionate about what you love. And so if these people come out dressed as their favorite character, sometimes you don't even know the character. It's a little obscure and you have to be like, hey, what are you dressed as? You know, just tap them on the shoulder. But I mean, you don't want to know what the biggest costume this year was?
What?
Stranger Things Ships Ahoy couples. There were so many couples.
I can't sit through that show, to be honest with you.
There's a ice cream parlor. I haven't actually seen the 3rd season, but the characters are dressed in these ridiculous nautical outfits. That outfit was everywhere, and it was almost like, what's going on? How did this become such a thing? I didn't know it was a thing like that.
Yeah. You know, I like anything that really brings people together in a positive way. And I used to like really hate the Olympics. I didn't see the need for them. But you know what? It's like the one time the world isn't trying to kill each other. And it's nice to like, you know, when there's positive things like that. So I'm actually all for it. And I would like to go one day and really experience it and just see all like the happiness and the people interact. I think it'd be a nice experience, something pleasant. I mean, my God, we need so much more of that.
Definitely. You know, what was different about this convention compared to other conventions that I go to, because there's some LA ones that are a little bit smaller that I'll attend, but I was in line and I was talking to a couple and they were from Wisconsin. And then I was talking to other people and they had came from Canada, just to come down for this convention. So you had such a melting pot of people. I thought, oh, it's going to be all people from San Diego and LA just coming up. But it was literally from all parts of the country coming in to check out this huge event. So it was amazing to kind of deal with that. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I gotta go then.
Check it out.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming in, Hector. It was great chatting with you.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
This was fun. I love you guys for listening as always. More good stuff to come, of course. Check out this Beverly Hills panel because there's a lot happening and I'm really excited. I can't wait for people to hear it. So I can't promote that enough. And Hector, where can we find you? How can people keep up with you?
You can find me on Instagram at HManArmy. And you can find me on Facebook, Hector Sagastumes.
My thanks to Hector, and we'll be back with more rants.
Thanks.
This has been Grant's Rants. Support the Rants on Patreon at patreon.com/Grant's Rants. Follow Grant on Twitter and Instagram at It's Grant's Rants. Cover art created by Howie Rone. Voiceover by Aw Yeah! Original theme music by Alexander Arntzen. The Grant Michael Collection.